Welcome back. We want to look deeper into a question in the security and compliance domain. So let's pick one from subdomain 4.2, Identify and Implement Data Protection, Encryption, and Capacity Planning. Reminder, this question is not from the actual exam, but is of the same structure and difficulty of one you might find there. Ready? Here's the STEM. A company is migrating its applications and data from on-premises to the AWS cloud, including 500 terabytes of data that must move to Amazon S3. There are concerns about time, cost, and performance. What is the fastest and most cost-effective way to perform the migration? Break it down. What do you see? Well, the first point that jumps out to me is migrating 500 terabytes. That's terabytes with a T. This is not just a 30-second cat video here. So what's the value judgment here? Time, cost, performance, specifically fastest and most cost-effective way? This is a little unusual for a CERT question. Normally, there is only one primary value, speed or cost. You can be fast or cheap, is the old saying. But here, they are looking for a response that solves both simultaneously. Interesting. So before I post the responses, do you know what option you would like to see here? What is the solution you're hoping for, and is it in one of these responses? Let's go ahead and take a look at the 4 options that are available. Option A, perform a network-based copy of the data from the on-premises network to the destination S3 bucket. B, use multiple instances of the AWS Snowball client on multiple workstations with multiple AWS Snowball Edge compute optimized appliances. C, use multiple instances of the AWS Snowball client on multiple workstations with multiple AWS Snowball Edge storage optimized appliances. D, use AWS Storage Gateway, file gateway type, and facilitate an on-premises copy using the file gateway mount point. Pause a moment and see if your specific answer is here. If so, congratulations. But let's go through the responses here a little differently and assume that you did not see your favorite answer here. Or perhaps you were sure, but then not so sure once you saw the other responses. A great tip I use when I sit these exams is to rule out the wrong answers first. Often you're left with the only correct answer as the last option standing. So let's group these responses together based on major categories. The first pair here, responses A and D, are both types of push the content over the internet. The second pair, responses B and C, are both use Snowball. The value we must solve for is speed and cost. So let's solve for speed first of all. And that should eliminate one of these 2 pairs. So how fast is the internet and how fast is Snowball? There are some basic assumptions we do need to make. Every business is different. Every building is different. But public internet uploads are limited based on the pipe attached to your specific building where you're pushing from. So let's assume that you've got amazing fiber and can push a full gig per second upload. Quick math says that to load 500 terabytes, you're looking at over 46 days of uninterrupted, uncapped, unthrottled, error-free loading just to complete the push. And by the way, that's just the speed issue here. Many providers will have data transfer costs once you pass thresholds that could push data transfer costs unexpectedly high, but let's stay focused on speed here. Okay, now let's look at Snowball devices and their transfer times. Snowball devices plug directly into your local network, load your content, get handed off to the courier, and are delivered directly to the target AWS region. Default shipping option, 2-day delivery. Yep, A delivery truck is faster than the internet at scale. And don't even get me started about snowmobile because, seriously, wow. Back to our responses. That makes the A and D distractors incorrect. They certainly work, but based on our values, speed in this case, they're clearly not the correct response. But wait, horses and zebra moment here. Some of you may be thinking about a case where the data center might live in a location that doesn't have easy access to snowball delivery. Don't talk yourself out of the right answer for this certification. Most of the world can get snowball access. In fact, there's amazing customer stories about using snowball devices in Antarctica. And I know that somewhere there's a good joke about using snowballs at the South Pole. I just can't seem to make it work. Anyway, my point is, unless the STEM specifically calls out a scenario where using snowball would be categorically impossible, assume that the question writer intended it to be a viable option. All right, 2 responses down, 2 to go. Both B and C are snowball devices. So generally speaking, there should be no speed difference between these options, and it's why the STEM asks for speed and cost. So choosing between these two means knowing which one is the less expensive option. Now pretend you don't know. So look at the 2 product names here. Storage optimized or compute optimized? Well, you're not doing any compute here. It's just store and ship. And this would make storage optimized the right choice, perhaps, but what if you weren't sure that storage optimized was actually a type of snowball? I mean, it seems silly, right? I mean, let's be honest, snowball is already a storage device. Compute optimized? That makes sense. Once you add edge computing, and that would be a thing, but to call a snowball storage optimized, why, that feels like a trick. And this could seem like the kind of name someone might make up to trap an unsuspecting candidate. And so we get to the idea of the trick question. This is an important fact in understanding how AWS writes certification items. AWS does not invent fake service names for their certifications. If you actually saw on an exam a product called the AWS Interstellar Communicator, then even if you don't recall ever hearing about that, you could trust there actually is such a product. Now, the distractor might ask that the service be used in a way that is technically impossible, such as assigning your SQS an elastic IP address. Now, those are both real services, but that combination, not a thing. So, back to our remaining responses. Storage optimized versus compute optimized. We know both must be real products, so the decision becomes clear. Storage optimized is the key, the correct answer. Now, if you actually want to go look up the costs, you can go to aws.amazon.com/snowball/pricing. But it turns out that once you account for storage capacity difference and base job fees, the compute optimized option may be around 10 times the cost. By far, not the most cost-effective choice. So there we have it. A, B, and D are all distractors. Plausible and yet wrong, while C is the key for this question.